Hello, my name is Sydney Connor, and this is my presentation on Florida State's football team and how data can help us make better forecasts in the future. Okay, let's jump right into it. First and foremost, this is a history on the Florida State football team. Their win-loss record in the 2022 to 2023 season, they won 11 games and lost just 3 games. They are doing fantastic. This is a significant improvement from their 2021 to 2022 season, which was 5 wins and 7 losses. So we're seeing great improvement on their end. Their score statistics, on average, they win by 22 points compared to just 15 points in 2021 to 2022. And they lose by only 6 points, and they were losing by 9 points in 2021 to 2022. So we're seeing improvements on both ends there. They have a returning star-studded group of athletes. All of their main players are returning for this next season, so our stats and their winning records should continue in the 2023 to 2024 season. Now the fun part, data. So to create this data set, it needed a lot of data cleaning. I first removed the income outliers because there were a lot. I also removed people who have spent less than $10 on football. This data set had multiple different sports, and I wanted to really target those football fans rather than baseball. I also removed the ID duplicates, and I did not remove the rows that had empty marital status entries because I didn't want to delete good data, and if we just didn't know if they were single or married, I still wanted to use that information. In total, I removed 540 out of the 2,200 rows. So I removed a lot, but it was all for necessary reasons. Variable modification. So I added a total spend column. I added a number of purchases total column. I added an age column from the birth year data. So this gave us their age, which helps us in the future. We'll jump into it, looking at their age rather than birth year. I made a children yes/no column with a string of data instead of binary integers representing yes or no, so it was easier to use. Desired improvements going forward. The data set lacks details about transaction date, campaign date, and annual spend. We could be used more accurate forecast sales going forward, and details about merchandise spend and donations would be filtered by category going forward. So it didn't say whether it was for football or baseball, so it was hard to figure out exactly what they were spending money on. For the descriptive statistics section of this project, I wanted to answer the questions: what effect does children and household have on spend for football, donations, and total amount? How much income do my customers have on average? Which advertising campaigns were the most effective? So we looked at the different advertisement campaigns. And what effect does education level have on the average spending on football? So we just wanted a deeper dive into who our customers are and who we should be targeting in the future. All right, the first exciting graph, children in the household. So I wanted to look at spend on donations, football, and totals for families. On the left, you can see families with children spend significantly less than on the right, families with no children. So the families with no children spend about 3 times as much as children in the household, and this visualization really hones in on that fact. Great. Next graph. So this is the income cluster analysis. As you can see here, our average income is $56,400. The majority of our customers are in this orange cluster section, with the outliers being in those blue sections. We should focus forecasts on these customers with income between $30,000 to $85,000 because they are the majority of our customers. Next, we look at advertising campaigns. Response rates to campaigns is what we are looking at here. The most recent campaign performed amazingly at 16.6%. Campaign 2 performed the worst at 1.5%. So we should invest in continuation of the most recent campaign and probably look at campaign 2 and see what went wrong. Great, and this is about education level and football spend. So this is the average spend on football in the last 2 seasons per person. Customers with advanced degrees, as you can see here, spend significantly more. And associate degree holders spend significantly lower than the rest. So with this information, we should target higher education to maximize our revenue and maybe try to figure out what's happening with the associate's degree holders. Maybe we aren't marketing to them. Maybe we shouldn't be marketing to them, but we should figure something out for that demographic. All right, guys, this is the riveting stuff, the statistical tests. The questions we want answered today are: what factors explain the variation on total spend by our customers? How much will our customers spend next year on average, and how many new customers will be gained next year. Methods used. So I ran 3 different regressions to forecast total spend. I also used a forecast dashboard to predict next year's inputs, which is easy to use. And conclusions are based on weighted average of multiple regression models, so we're getting more accurate information. All right, getting into the nitty gritty of this, these 3 regression models generated 3 formulas for predicting total spend. These models look at different variables to explain variation in the total spend. All 3 of these models are significant, but don't explain 100% of variation, which is normal in regressions. You shouldn't expect to get 100% R-squared. All right, first and foremost, our first total spend formula had 63.4% R-squared, which is explaining about 63.4% of variation. And then we look at total spend. This one is only an R-squared of 30.4%, which isn't amazing, but all the variables are significant, as in all of our other regressions. We can also see the large difference between with children in the household, without children in the household. So even though this isn't explaining the most amount of variance, I do think it's really important information. The final total spend formula, it explained 70.9% of our variation, which is fantastic, and all the variables are significant, so we should really look at this regression model. Going a little bit above and beyond, here's a forecast dashboard. So now that we have those regression models, we need to forecast the variables that we input to make the information useful. The 4 forecasts predict average income, age, distance, and number of purchases for new customers. And those 2 visualizations on the bottom predict the number of new customers and percentage of families with children. I'd like to add that this dashboard is dynamic, and busy managers can use this to predict their future forecasts, which is really important and can help us use this data to make actually great recommendations for the future. So because of that forecast dashboard, the inputs were entered into the regression equations to calculate 3 estimates for total spend. The outputs were weighted based on the R-squared of the models, and this resulted in a weighted average total spend per customer of $620.71 per 2 years. Great information. To build off of that last slide and to dive into those numbers a little deeper, the per customer annual spend is forecasted to be $310.35. The forecasted total spend from new customers is $129,496 per year. The total annual spend, including existing customers, could be calculated with more precise data on customers. So when we move into our recommendations, we're going to talk about this point a little bit more, but good data equals good results, and we need both to have a perfect forecast. We've talked about a lot of numbers, but these are the recommendations, and these are the ways we're actually going to improve our business. Advertising. We need to invest in more advertising campaigns like the most recent one based on our data. We need to use transaction data to track the effectiveness of our advertising to see if it's actually working. We can use A/B testing to find out which elements of advertising are most effective, and we can make better choices overall going into the future. Customer types. We need to focus on acquiring customers who have higher levels of spending to increase sales. Based on our data, these customers are the ones with higher levels of education and families without children, so we should really target those segments. We need to improve our data set. We need to gather specific transaction data to track who is making purchases, when they occur, and after which interactions with advertising, so we can have better data overall. Winning record. We need to capitalize on the strong performance of our team to sell more tickets and increase fan loyalty. We have a lot going for us, so let's just keep the momentum going. To elaborate on more ways to improve the data set, we need transaction data. We need to gather specific information to track who is making purchases, when they occur, and at which interactions with advertising. We need to increase detail of customer transaction data to be able to segment customers based on whether they're spending money on football or other events. Because right now it's all pooled in the same pocket, so we don't really know what they're spending their money on. Expanded analytics. More analytics means more results. Legacy data set should be incorporated into the new expanded data set because it is important to gather data for multiple years to be able to generate forecasts. We don't want to be making decisions based on recent trends. We want to be able to have backing behind our decisions. In addition, once transaction data is fully integrated, do further analytics to be able to predict seasonality, spending per game, and effectiveness of advertising. Thank you so much for listening. With these recommendations, I can see our team being even better, and I look forward to working with you more.